imagine they are trying to grow through paid ads, you mentioned.
So most of our clients in that space, 80% of them, 90% were venture backed.
So we have agencies go off and discover the best leads for you.
The one amendment that I think we made about 6 months ago, which has really changed our churn rate.
How do you see shifting the traditional SEO strategy?
So X tool is very much targeted to funded companies.
Hello everyone, today I have something special. I have two people with me here. Usually I've been interviewing only one founder, but today I've got Greg and McVal. So guys, welcome. How are you doing?
Good.
Great to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Eduardo.
Pleasure. So, all right. So today we've got something interesting that has to do with engaging with leads on social media. I'm gonna leave you guys discuss it. Tell me a bit who you are, what business you have, what it does.
Absolutely. Maybe Greg, if you wanted to kind of tell a bit of the initial story of how we started working together, then I can kind of go on to some of the stuff that we've been doing on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Yeah. So hi, my name is Greg. Yes, my background, a lot of it is marketing and data analytics. Sort of 20 years in that space, and really sort of moved from a paid space, doing a lot of paid marketing, 15 years into the organic space about 5 years ago, and really built out a platform there, which was around the social listening side in the Web3 space. We started working with Stephen Bartlett, building out strategy for him, and this is where I met McVal. While we were working there on strategy and working for a lot of funded companies, we saw some big opportunities in the organic growth space that we needed, and we used a lot of these strategies in our growth companies we worked with, but we found they took a lot of time. What we did was we found a problem. It took a lot of time for the organic growth, so we built tools for that. And so we built several products, Growth3 and Growlink. I'll let McVal kind of go into a little bit more detail about what they are and how we built them.
All right.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, and thanks again, Eduardo, for bringing us on. So my background, again, Greg and I met now a couple years ago. And we've been building this tool out for about a year. But before that, I'm from the US. I moved to the UK about 10 years ago, and I was working in the market research and social media analytics space. I started working for Stephen Bartlett and Don McGregor at Social Chain up in Manchester. So I was there for a few years. And after that time, ended up working with him, with Stephen Bartlett at Flight Story after he sold that business, after he sold Social Chain. And Greg and I met when we were both working for Steve there. My interest in social media across every platform has always been trying to understand what makes human beings tick, how we can actually use tech to create deeper human relationships. And so we wanted to build something that could help enable growth managers, marketers, salespeople build better relationships. And we were seeing a lot of movement towards fully automated engagement, fully autonomous sales managers and sales representatives. And so we've built out Growlink, effectively seeing a few trends that we have noticed around this full automation and seeing some pushback from that. And we've built Growlink to enable users to leverage AI, but in a very human-centric way, to build relationships through more genuine comments, through engaging in more unique ways with their target audience on LinkedIn.
All right. So let me ask you the first question then. What was the problem that you were trying to solve here? Because I feel like you both saw the same issue, or perhaps it was a bit different from his perspective, but which were the main issues they were trying to solve?
I really I'm interested to hear, Greg, your perspective on this as well. But I think from my side, we actually built this initially to solve our own pain. And we were working as fractional CMOs within the Web3 and crypto space. And we were working on projects with a lot of venture-backed capital. So most of our clients in that space, 80% of them, 90% were venture-backed startups in the blockchain ecosystem. And they needed to grow really quickly. But what that meant was they were often pulling levers using paid, using influencers, and it wasn't the most effective strategy. Where we saw the most benefit and the ability to build lasting audiences that would actually stick around and use a product was through outbound engagement from the founders, from the brand, using comments and using really timely content published organically from accounts. And so that's really, we built this to support that process because it was taking us a lot of time, and it was always the last thing that was prioritized because we knew we needed to be organizing paid campaigns.
And I'd say a lot of people in kind of the X space kind of value those vanity metrics, those numbers, but they forgot about the fact that a lot of those numbers are not your perfect customer. They're not going to buy from you. They're not going to be around, and they're not going to DM you and buy whatever it is you're selling. And without doing this kind of organic, humanized growth method, then you're not going to get those customers. And so it was having a combined model, which was so important to us, but it just took the time. It took a lot of time. So it's how do we build tools to solve that, to take less time?
So for someone who's never used any similar tool or are listening to you guys, how would you see, how could you really simply explain to them how it's going to solve their problem? Imagine they are trying to grow through paid ads. You mentioned McVal is becoming also quite expensive. Like, imagine you have a chance to meet them. How would you explain it to them? What is the tool? How can they use it so that, they achieve their goals they have? What is it automated? Is it something that has to do with some human in the loop? Well, give me a bit more of the tool so that we can show everyone exactly what it does.
So I think one of the biggest pain points that we hear again and again from founders, from marketers, when we talk to them is that they don't have enough time, and they would love to spend much more time building out high quality organic and having more detailed conversations with their leads to find out what matters to them and engage with them. But the algorithms across different platforms don't make that easy. Their goal is to keep you on the platform doom scrolling as long as possible. And so what our tool does is allow you to create very tailored lists of target personas. For instance, one of our customers is a 100-person law firm in London. They are raising capital for an AI-powered legal assistant agent, and they want to be engaging with venture capital funds and principals at those funds to raise awareness about their brand in the legal tech space. So they have built out a target list for that niche, and then our tool helps them keep track of all of the posts that are going out from all of those contacts, and then recommends which posts to reply to and drafts replies for them that are written in their tone of voice. They can start to see what messages are resonating, and then from there, we recommend that they initiate a direct messaging campaign, at which point they're much more likely to accept a connection request and follow up and actually book a call because they've had this kind of warm interaction for a few weeks.
Right. So it's like a really bespoke, let's say, X or LinkedIn account for myself based on the people that I'm interested in working with. I can see their posts. The system generates suggested replies. And then at some point, it also suggests me to get in touch with them through a DM. To continue warming up the lead. Oh, that's amazing, because sometimes I feel like you try to keep up with everything on LinkedIn. Most of them, unfortunately, most of the connections that I have are from different industries as well. So you don't get to see everything that you have to see. And also when you reply to them, you don't know who you reply to. When you DM them, you don't know when you DM them. So that's okay. I think it's a really valuable tool to have. Indeed, yeah.
Greg, was there anything that you would add to that? I think I
think really our tool's about multi-touch points. So you're going to mention people that might be doing paid, they might be doing email marketing, they might be doing DM. We don't advise not to do that. I think this is in everything together is what works. So this really it's about the discovery. So we have agents which go off and discover the best leads for you, which pulls it into the system. So that takes a lot of time if you try and do it manually. So kind of having that ready-made target list works really well. But then that ready-made target list, you're probably not connected to 90+% of those. If you try and send an email or a DM, it's completely cold. Most of the time, it'll probably go into spam box. They won't see it. What we're trying to do is with a comment, it's not going to go into spam box. It's going to be seen because it's on their post. So they're immediately familiar with who you are because they've seen a comment from you. The follow back rate from that is insane. And then once they've followed you, any sort of DMs you're sending on LinkedIn are going to land in their box. They're going to see it. They're going to recognize your name. So it's about that familiarity and kind of that multi-touch point, I think is why we built this. We also have other lead sort of discovery tools within that. So if you see a post, it's got lots of comments on, your ideal customer base is commenting on that post. With our tool, you can pull in all those leads and then start following what they're doing and what they're posting. And then whenever they post, you're commenting because you already know they've commented on somebody else's post. They've said they're interested in something that's in your niche. They're great. They're the perfect customer for you. So you need to start following what they're doing. And I think it's really sort of making sure that you're monitoring posts from these people outside of your existing pool. And LinkedIn is very good at giving you suggestions and posts from people that you already follow, but less so about people outside of that niche. And our tool allows you to research both in terms of search and the lead monitoring outside of your current sort of first and second degree following.
Right, so you can go beyond your first and second connections, we could say.
Yeah.
And this is for LinkedIn and X, right? For those two.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did the idea of this tool changed over time? Did you think of something completely different when you saw the problem initially? So the question here is, has the idea pivoted, evolved over the past few months? A lot?
I think if anything, we've broadened our understanding of our ideal customer audience. The one amendment that I think we made about 6 months ago, which has really changed our churn rate and people sticking around, and it was sort of counterintuitive for us, was we built the tool initially only as an alert bot. So effectively, it would deliver everything within Slack or Telegram or Discord as a message. So it would send an alert to you and say, these are the new posts and these are the recommended replies. And we thought, this is going to be great because these people don't have to learn another app and they don't have to learn another login, and it just lives where they spend a lot of time. But I think what we realized was that a lot of these people are already overwhelmed in those platforms. So they already have a lot of channels in Slack or a lot of channels in Discord, and it doesn't actually make a standout alert in their mind. It doesn't have the same stickiness. Whereas when we built out the dashboard and the analytics portal for both X and LinkedIn, our churn rate went way down because people felt that they had this thing that they could go back to, I think, and also monitor progress. So that was, I think, a learning for me. I don't know, Greg, if there was anything that you...
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the alerts are valuable in combination because it then kind of, you can be out and about and you can get something and say, here's a conversation. But, as McVal said, kind of having that platform as well that you can log into, see all your stats, see what everybody's doing in the market has been hugely valuable. And that's been a massive learning curve for us. And I think just, I guess, stacking the tools and stacking the value and making things simpler for people. So, a big learning for us was feedback was, well, great, you can build out lists, but I want to be able to log in and be able to have a suggested list. So now both on the X and the LinkedIn tool, the idea that an agent has gone off and researched those ideal customers for you is kind of hugely valuable for people. And that's something that a lot of people looked for within the tools.
Now that we're talking about, think about Slack, I think I really liked it because it sounds to me like it was a pure MVP without having to expense a lot. How did you find the first client? Because I guess these were the clients that were using the Slack method. How did you start looking around? Did you talk to your network? Did some outreach? Like, how did they came about?
I think Greg has been the master at scaling our outreach. When we, and I don't really, I love going to events, but I'm not very efficient in how I make use of them. And I think Greg taught me a few lessons about the best way to do that. But to be honest, our first leads and our first sales came through attending live events and having conversations with people, and everyone we spoke to about the problem that they were facing thought it was a no-brainer, and they were surprised why people hadn't built out a solution for this already. And then I think, strangely enough, because of the industry that we started in Web3, we leveraged our own tool to warm up relationships with people on X, meaning we were going out directly to CMOs and founders of businesses that we were interested in, commenting on what they were saying, and then reaching out in DMs on X. And a lot of our business has come through that. And then referrals. That's been kind of a really strong referrals and consultants that are bringing us into businesses when they work with us. But our first conversation, our first sale was with one person that Greg and I both spoke to at a stand at an event. We got free tickets. We didn't pay for a stand. We were just going and talking to everyone we could about the solution. So yeah, that was our first customer.
It looks like networking was the main solution here. Greg, looks like you're the master according to McVal. Can you give us some basic tips on how you like to engage with people, like exactly what you focus on?
Yeah, I think at events, the talks are very good, but you're not necessarily going to get customers there. So I think for me, it's going hard on talking to every single person you can. So going around every single stand, talking to them. There's always something with somebody you speak to at these stands that's going to be relevant. It may be that their company's interested, but it may be that they have other companies that they can refer you to. And I think that for me, as McVal said, is great for getting customers. But then, the referral probably makes up, 30 or 40% of our sales, because you've got that initial connection. And I think there's a lot of tools out there. So I think that trust of somebody saying, well, I've tried this, it works really well for us. So we set up incentive schemes and commission-based affiliate schemes where we incentivize these guys to bring us customers. That works really well. But then also getting into agencies. So, for the X tool, we work with 4 or 5 agencies, and they use it not only for their clients, but sometimes if they're not providing the comment services themselves, they'll do a straight referral. So we'll get commission by referral. And I think, again, that works well because they have the existing relationships with those. So then beyond that, there's the cold DMs, both on X, on LinkedIn, email, kind of all of those together. But as McVal said, our tool is an outreach tool, so we use it extensively. We're sending 200 replies or so a day on X every single day. LinkedIn, we go out every single day, and we're sending comments on posts. We're getting conversations going every day from off the back of that, and that works really well.
So cold outreach on email and cold outreach on X as well. I guess when it comes to a network on event where you go to with a stand or you go to meet people around, they expect you to approach them, right? So maybe they are a bit more warm to sales. But when it comes to engaging on email or X, you need to be very strategic about how you do it. And you're leveraging the tool apparently for X. What is the usual approach that you follow on X? Like, do you provide something free, valuable, a warm hello? How do you break the ice?
So in terms of combining the comments with the DMs, so the most important point really for us is the targeted list. So obviously you want people that are going to be relevant. So particularly around event time, what we tend to do is we'll find all the people going to that event, all the CMOs, all the founders, we'll pull those into a list, we'll analyze that list. We'll start commenting on those posts, but then we'll also send out DMs at the same time. So they've seen you in the comments, they've seen you in the DM. The DMs for us is very conversational, kind of giving a few key facts and about the tool, that it's worked for other people in their industry, and some of the evidence-based numbers really of how well it works, and then just asking if they want to see a free demo.
What initial struggles did you face when you were trying to close that first client? Did you have any strong objections that you had to really think deeply about and how to address them?
I think the main pushback that we had was, and it continues to have to be an education, is a pushback that says, I've seen all of these horrible AI generated comments. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And that is one of the reasons that I think our product stands out, is we actually spend a lot of time researching the best prompts and writing styles and angles to write comment replies that are relevant both to the context, contextually relevant to the context of the post, as well as, where relevant, looping back in your business, subtly dropping mentions of your brand if relevant and if that is a goal of yours. So I would say that continues to be one area of education, which is making sure that a brand doesn't hurt itself through producing AI generated sounding posts.
That's true. I mean, I feel like LinkedIn today it's a replica of ChatGPT in action.
Yeah.
Plenty of everything pretty much is AI. And it's hard to see whether people are being genuine about the post or they're just trying to get some views on it.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that because you mentioned that you use prompting for the system, but are there any other I mean, obviously this might be company secret, but are there any other tactics that the tool uses, scraping your website or understanding more about the industry that the tool uses to make sure that the tone of voice is on point, that the formatting of the style matches the most viral post on LinkedIn.
So we have a lot of education content that we're putting together, especially on the LinkedIn side, because Growlink is a self-service tool for the most part, unless teams come to us and want to do custom prompt writing and generation. So a team is able to go in and create different tone of voice models for different situations. So they can say, I want one to talk to my investors. I want one to talk to my potential customers. But when we first started this, we tend to recommend going back and training the model on the last month or two of your posts and your comments. Sometimes we go back as far as 6 months to train the tone of voice. But sometimes people don't actually like the tone of voice they're using. So they might want something different. They might say, we ask them, what kind of brands or founders do you aspire to be? Do you like their content? And then we can actually go and scrape that as a training element. But I think the most important thing is the best prompting in the world will still produce replies that sound a bit odd if you're reaching out to the wrong people. And so we build really robust lists of target audiences on the X side, and Greg can definitely speak to that more. And on the LinkedIn side, we again have a lot of educational material about how to define your target audiences and your ideal customer profile. And especially important on Growlink is you're actually able to create your own tags for your leads. So it's the equivalent of building an X list where anyone that you tag as, a VC or anyone you tag as a SaaS founder will be separated and filtered. So you can make sure that you're only replying to certain types in certain ways. And that really makes a big difference.
And I'd say to the point of the AI generation. So as McVal mentioned, we spend a lot of time on the tone of voice and helping with that and looking at what has been out there already. But this is another reason why the tool doesn't actually post anything. Well, there's two reasons that both tools don't post on your behalf. The first being, a lot of people came to us and had a pain point of, I don't want to connect my account to a tool, an unknown tool, both on X and LinkedIn. It's a potential big risk. Our tool, you don't need to connect your account to. And that was big for us. We said, you never connect your account to either tool, so there's no risk there, there's no connection risk. The second point of that is that we're producing 4 replies. So this is where the humanized element comes in. You have 4 replies to choose from. So you choose which one of those is relevant to you. And then before you post, because it's not fully automated on posting, you get the chance to edit it to post it. So you haven't got that sort of AI. So you've got the start of a conversation. Most of the time it sounds good enough because we spent a lot of time on that tone of voice, but you still get that chance to adjust this and change it before posting. And so we're still massively speeding up that process, and you can post very quickly, but the human element is important to us, and for those reasons.
Right. So you make sure the user has proper control over their replies and everything that's going on their LinkedIn and X. Yeah. Great. Can I ask you, how many users do you have at the moment?
Greg, do you have that?
Yeah. So in terms of on X, we work with around 50 venture-backed funded companies and about 5 agencies. On the LinkedIn tool, we only launched 3 or 4 weeks ago. So we've got about 30 or so customers using that at the moment.
Nice, perfect. That sounds like a great amount of customers for such a short-term company. So congratulations. Sorry, McVal, were you going to say anything?
I was going to say thank you, Eduardo, but I would also just say, I think, we're just the one, I think, additional point to that is you asked a question earlier about learnings or adjustments in our product or our target audience. And I think one adjustment that we made for LinkedIn was we never, with X, we actually didn't ever have or didn't offer a free trial. And that was because there was a lot of customization, a lot of hand-holding that went into helping build out customized lists to ensure that people had a very positive experience. And as part of this move into LinkedIn, we did a lot of background work and a lot of research into making sure that onboarding process could be the best it possibly could. And so we do a free trial for Growlink now for all of our tiers, because we want people to see the value of it first off, and because we can take on board that risk. I think when we were spending a lot of manual time, both Greg and I and our team, on each new enterprise user coming on board for X, that meant that we weren't able to do that. But that was a shift that we made very consciously to try to get more users in the door trialing as quickly as possible.
Right, that's interesting that you mentioned pricing. So sorry, I didn't get that right. So does X still offer non-trial mode, or?
So we currently still, for our core product, which is replies, we still do not do free trials for X. We're working on that. That's actually something that Greg might be able to talk about now. I don't know if we're able to talk about that, Greg, but you've been working on a very cool new product release. But we have the analytics tool, which people can do a free trial of. That's the dashboard that gives you the ability to track how your replies and comments are doing compared to your competitors, and find better accounts to reply to. But for the core product, we still don't do a free trial.
And the main reason for that, particularly on X, is it's a managed service. So we work with the team on a weekly basis. It's not just an off-the-shelf SaaS tool. Yeah. We work with the teams building out the target lists each week, building out, making adjustments to the tone of voice. Maybe they've got different events happening. So we're constantly tweaking it and adding to it. As opposed to with Growlink, it's more of a self-serve tool, although we do work with enterprise clients as well, where our team is helping to get the comments out, building out tone of voice and similar sort of thing. But on X, we felt that really that building of those lists is really where the value is in building that tone of voice. So it's reflected in the price. The X tool starts at $500 a month to $900 a month, whereas the Growlink tool starts much less. But what we are doing with both tools is on X, we're bringing out a browser extension which will allow you to do not auto reply again, but the suggestions using the tone of voice that we built out for the project. So for us, that's a cheaper product, so we're able to offer that at a lower price, but combine that with the analytics tool. So we have a very powerful analytics platform both for LinkedIn and for X, which really goes deep and not only looks at what you're doing as a company, as a project, but then also what all your competitors are doing, and allows you to see that competitor research.
Staying on the price topic, do you think that offering a free trial can somehow affect the perception of the product quality that you're trying to offer? Was the fact that you had to be working alongside the company the main reason why you kept the price on the table? What's your take on that? Because so many people nowadays expect to have a free trial, but at the same time, I've also heard many times that having a free trial might bring you people who are not willing to pay at some point, and that has a cost because you've got a SaaS to maintain, a team to maintain. What is your take on it? Because I'm curious, given that you have now the two models running simultaneously.
Personally, I still feel like it is up for debate internally. But I think we see benefits of both. I think we were very ambivalent, but that's one of the reasons, Eduardo, why we've been profitable from day one and not having to take on any investment, because we were charging a premium and wanted to prioritize cash flow at the beginning. And so we were having fewer conversations, higher quality conversations, and then requiring upfront payment. So we both come from, we've dealt with SaaS, but I've spent a long time in agency. Greg has spent a long time in agency as well as software. And so I was sick and tired of having to propose very custom solutions and then be turned down for lack of budget. we are very much a unique offering, but we come at a premium price. And so I think that that's why that was a very good decision for us. I think the goal for the free trial versus freemium always free level is that we want to show the value quickly for smaller businesses that might not be able to take a punt on, a £500 a month thing. But if they can see the return and see the benefit quickly, then they're much more likely to convert. Whereas we can give them all the examples over a phone call, but it does take our time and effort away from that.
Let me ask you, McVal, sorry, just a follow-up question. When do you think it's a good idea to have a free trial in place?
I think if you have the systems in place and a lot of educational materials to really clearly show the value and the benefit, basically recordings of Greg and I that we've given over 200 now pitches over the last 7 or 8 months. If you have that, and also if your costs are not too high, whether it's AI token costs as well as any API costs for the social media platforms, I think that would mean it's the right time for a limited free trial. I don't know if you would agree, Greg. But
yeah, and I'd also say target. So X tool is very much targeted B2B funded companies. We haven't really spent a lot of time on the creator side and going for the lower level subscription. And so at that level, we find that the company has to invest time and effort into using the tool. And what we find is there's a lot of tools, there's a lot of noise out there, there's a lot of people trying to approach them with tools. And I think giving a free trial, companies will take them from everywhere, but then they won't do it. They won't do the free trial. And then it's kind of a wasted conversation. It gets forgotten. If you get them to invest in day one, because it's a project, they can afford it, and they know they won't need to do it, they see the results because they actually put the time and the effort to use the tool. They see the results immediately, and then they're more likely to stick around and use it. And I think very, very early, we started trying to say, well, let's try with free trials. And exactly that happened. People just said, yes, I'll use the trial. You went back a week later. Oh, I've not had a chance yet. I've not used it. I haven't got around to using it. So I think at the B2B level, at those sort of price points, for us, we find it's better not to. But I think if you're going at a cheaper price product, at the consumer product, which is, the much cheaper, £20, £30, $30 a month, then it's important to have that free trial because people won't, people expect it now. So I think it depends on your target.
I see. Nice. Okay, good points here. Interesting. I think it's a big debate internally and externally. Well, you mentioned that. All right. So, you've been growing for the past few months. Have you done any other investments in marketing? Have you tried organic, SEO, paid media? What else have you guys been working on lately in terms of marketing?
I would say we are prioritizing word of mouth and organic for the time being. We do have some budget set aside for paid experiments and more automated outreach, but for the most part, we've been using a handful of outreach tools and systems that we had used previously in conjunction with Growlink and Growth3 to run lukewarm cold outreach and cold outreach campaigns and messaging campaigns to really precise audiences. I think the intention is to prioritize over the next quarter SEO as well as paid across social and search. And obviously, it's such a buzzword right now to talk about AI search and how you get noticed on AI search within the likes of Gemini and ChatGPT. So we're looking into ways to prioritize that and repurposing organic content into long form, kind of long tail content strategy hosted on our website from an educational perspective. But Greg, I don't know if there's anything you would add.
Yeah, no, exactly that. I think for us, the low hanging fruit really is your network. So reaching out to everybody in your network, which we do. DMs to first connections. Again, you may not know them personally, but there may be a first connection. So kind of making sure all that's covered off first. I've got a lot of experience in paid, so we will be doing some paid, but it takes quite big budgets to get it running generally and to get it working, particularly if you're going B2B and at that higher price point. So paid is going to be in the mix, but at the moment we're prioritizing organic ways. mentioned.
I've got a few questions that popped up when you guys were talking. So the first thing is that, McVal, you mentioned that you're using other outreach tools. What type of outreach tools are you guys using, and or what type of marketing it is?
So we use LinkedIn Sales Navigator because we've been using it as a way of just referencing what our tool can do versus what they can do, and some of the search functionality is valuable. I personally find it's a bit overly complex sometimes, and some of our users tell us that. But we use LinkedIn Sales Navigator for identifying certain target subsets of audiences and looking for people that publish frequently.
And then we can actually use those URLs from Sales Navigator within our tool. So
I'm gonna ask that.
paste the URL in, it will suck in all the leads. You can then categorize and tag them and then start commenting on there. So it's a great way to sort of really sort of refine who it is you're bringing into our tool.
I was gonna ask that. Do you have to be a premium LinkedIn member to be able to use it in your tool?
You have to be able, so you can search, you can add users to your lead list, either using a standard LinkedIn search URL of, for instance, anyone that's a non-paying user can go into the search bar and say CEOs in London that say SaaS in their title. You could pull all of those from that URL. You don't have to be a premium user. To get to the search query functions for LinkedIn search, to build that URL, typically you need to have access to that somehow, but you don't have to link your paying account to get the data from that URL, if you know what I mean. So anyone that has that URL, it won't look at first, second degree connections. It will just look at the general filters that you put on.
Understood. Perfect. You mentioned as well SEO and paid. I know it's not been part of the marketing tactics now, but it will be. And given that you have quite a bit of experience with agencies and especially Greg with paid, I'm curious to talk about a bit more about how SEO will be used, especially now that we are all with AI as part of our strategy, and also paid. Perhaps we can start with the SEO. What is the first approach that you guys might take? I don't know who is the expert here for the SEO, but I'm really curious to hear exactly how you might approach it given the circumstances we live in.
Greg, I don't know. Yeah, go on. Okay, paid. Yeah, so on the SEO side, we're looking at obviously the trends that we are seeing in AI search, but if you read between the lines, there's all these people saying that they've got different strategies and it's going to completely ruin all of the content marketing that businesses have been doing for years and years. But if you look at SEO experts and kind of content marketing experts like Neil Patel, they're basically saying, do all of the best practices for content marketing and keywords that you were already doing. Just do more of it, address the kind of the rise of AI in a dynamic way where certain media formats will become more valuable, like video embedded within articles, like mentioning your company more often in longer form LinkedIn articles as well as LinkedIn posts. All of these things are now getting pulled in more and more into Google's Google and Microsoft AI search engines. And so if you are operating under best practices for SEO and content creation already, you won't really have to change too much, but we are prioritizing, we don't have an existing blog. We're prioritizing putting our blog live in the next couple weeks with a lot more educational content and a lot more long tail answers to questions that we've seen raised from users that we have currently, as well as pain points that we've just picked up from people mentioning them on LinkedIn.
Let me ask you a follow-up question, McVal. Yeah. How do you plan to structure the blog section for your website? How do you, in terms of SEO, like how do you plan to come up with the topics, write the content, optimize?
Yeah, so I think we're right now we are looking at a structure which basically is top of that funnel is driving awareness of a problem. So talking about the problem associated with LinkedIn leads and sales and converting on LinkedIn. So driving general awareness based on what we know search queries are coming through and what is interesting and trending on LinkedIn, followed up by specific tactics, so kind of playbook structure of different tactics and strategies that you can use. We've done this to great effect already in a few lead magnet style posts on LinkedIn, where we have people comment for access to a shared doc for kind of comment methodologies and frameworks. So those kinds of frameworks and strategies not only add to our own IP, they're very searchable, and if they're solving a specific problem, they're more likely to be raised in AI search as well. And then case studies. So both written case studies and video case studies. So doing more short interviews with successful users, getting them to both do text-based and video recordings of themselves. We're using a fairly recently launched startup called Senja. Don't know if you've heard of them, but that's for testimonial gathering. And so you can create really interesting forms through Senja and either video or text, and they have to check boxes to give legal permissions for usage. So it really streamlines everything from our perspective there. And then kind of the final point is more feature walkthroughs. So actually doing walkthroughs of how to use the tool, putting that on the blog, but then also we haven't really spoken about this, but launching more educational info focused YouTube channel. So not necessarily trying to go viral on YouTube, but being very tailored in the education focus that we have specific to the tool.
Amazing. And we also know that tools rank very highly on SEO, so we'll be throwing out some very simple sort of tools which within our niche that are free and within the site that people will then rank and get some awareness of our site.
All right, McVal, so let me ask you a question. Given that everyone is now using LLMs and ChatGPT to write their CVs, everything, their blogs, their life story, pretty much, how do you see shifting the traditional SEO strategy? Because now everyone is so focused on trying to show up on ChatGPT. I'm personally using ChatGPT way more than I use Google. Sorry, Google. But that's a reality. And I'm wondering, how are they evolving? How are they being fed? And how can I influence that feeding so that at some point my business can show up on the LLMs? How do you see that evolving in the coming few months? What's your strategy at the moment and how you think that's going to evolve?
Yeah, so I think it's actually a good thing for people that are active on social media for a couple reasons. One, you are just going to kind of be aware of, if you follow marketing at all, you follow content marketing and SEO, you're going to be seeing a lot of news about it. And so you'll be one step ahead of 95% of people out there. But I would also say that a lot of the LLMs have limited scraping agreements and arrangements in place with the major social media platforms. And so they're actually able to reference and pull content that is being posted on social in a much more dynamic way than what used to be possible via just plain Google search or Bing. And so if anything, I would say continuing to produce content as often as possible that is genuine and human generated as much as possible, that will be a huge benefit. And the other focus point is focusing on solving a problem or solving a pain point. I think what doesn't perform as well, we're seeing this on social and just in general in terms of search, but we used to see a lot of posts and blogs go viral because they were perhaps more controversial or emotion driven, sad stories, happy stories, stories of success. But what's really working right now is education and playbooks, guides, really kind of structured and packaged lessons. Some of that comes across as AI generated, but if you have your own spin and your own framework and personal lessons learned, those perform particularly well. We have learned that we put a lot of thought into our own organic content from our own personal accounts as well as our main account. And we spend a lot of time on the creative and the structure behind that and the strategy behind that. because we know that that is one of the few ways to continue to stand out. We looked at over 20,000 posts from top LinkedIn influencers over the last 3 months. And what we found was that most of the ones that were getting the most comments and engagement and drove the highest number of followers, aggregate followers, those were posts which had effectively requests for comment to get access to something. This is probably a loophole that will be closed before too long by LinkedIn, but it's still working very, very well. And it's very hard for humans to say no to that kind of thing. If they see a tool or a package or a calculator that they want access to, they can't get it unless they comment, they will do that. And so that is something that we've seen work very well for us. We've launched as tests several of those types of posts that tie back to a lead magnet. And another thing, when it comes to AI search engines, the more often you are posting about on social or writing articles about solving problems for people and actually include the content in the post itself and include a tag back to your company and your name, the more often that will be tagged and linked in AI search. What we know is that AI search is still looking for and creating backlinks based on the skills of the person being mentioned and their background, as well as the number of times a company is being mentioned. And so the more often you can mention your own company, the better.
Right. So people need to be very active on social media. Sorry, go on, Greg.
I'll just say that there's been also a lot of negative press at the moment around the other side, which is shared conversations on ChatGPT appearing in SEO search on Google. And I would say if you use that in the right way and you have conversations that are talking about your brand and your product, it's kind of a bit of a loophole at the moment where you're able to get ranked and SEO traffic by having that conversation, sharing that conversation, and then it gets ranked and appears on Google. So it's kind of, in spinning a positive out of what's currently being kind of portrayed in the press as a negative, which it can be if you're sharing the wrong things, obviously.
Yeah, indeed. Let me stick with you, Greg, 'cause I want to ask you about the ads part of your strategy. So what are you thinking about when it comes to paid ads? Are you more towards paid social search? And what is the idea that you have for the company?
Yes, I mean, I've got a lot of experience in paid. A lot of that is in the B2C space. And what I do know is using platforms like Google Search, once you get a really good search campaign going, it's extremely stable. For me, that's going to be a starting point to get search working. We know that doing social ads works extremely well as well. That will be going down the track of short video, hitting certain pain points, teaser video, leading to a couple of different things. So lead magnet or a VSL video page, again, a short sort of intro tease video, and then a data collect, or just going straight to sort of free trials. So we'll be trying all of this sort of different methods, but what I do find is the social side, running our social on Insta or Facebook, works well, but it takes big budgets to get it going and tested and trying, because there's so much you can be doing there. And it's extremely unstable. So what works for the first week gets quite stale and won't work the next week or the week after, because just the way the algorithms work. So always for me, it's getting search working first, or at least seeing if it will work for your brand, your project, and then moving on to social.
But just Google search for B2B can be sometimes very scary, especially for the CPCs. What is your strategy when it comes to keyword selection? And what can you tell me about, especially the landing page? Do you care about it at all? Do you think it's important for conversion?
Yes, I mean, obviously starting with a longer tail. So unless you've got huge budgets, starting with a longer tail, you'll obviously get a lot less traffic. But then in terms of the landing page, never going straight just to the homepage, having specific landing pages. So niching it down is kind of a focus for us. So it'll be finding particular industries, having landing pages that are relevant to those industries. So the product obviously can be used in any industry, but if you make it specific to specific industries, you're far more likely to kind of resonate with that user and get them to sign up. So going to, as I say, different methods will be trying. So lead capture, going straight to a video or straight to sort of an offer. doing something that's highly specific in a landing page that's just like one page and it gives them the offer and it gives them the details, as opposed to sending them to your homepage where they're going to get lost potentially, and then never sort of convert. So really sort of getting them there. And then obviously your pixels. So adding your pixels to the site from all of these social platforms so that you can then do the remarketing ads, keep remarketing so that everybody who's been to and visited your site is then going to see you on all platforms everywhere. And I think that's the aim, to kind of be appearing everywhere.
For other B2B companies listening, would you suggest also trying out like display, PMax, or are you a big believer of search and only search when it comes
No. I mean, not display on Google, but display ads work well. Interestingly, Meta, Facebook can work well on B2B. That's worked well for me in the past on SaaS products, although it's not necessarily the natural choice. LinkedIn obviously is what everybody goes to first, but it's extremely, it's extremely expensive. It does work, but you just have to have decent budgets to be able to do that.
How do you integrate Facebook ads as part of your Google search strategy? Do they run simultaneously, side to side? Do you have any usual common strategy that you use to complement each other?
Just in terms of pixel, I guess, and remarketing. So if somebody comes in on a Google search, they come to your site, they may not have converted, but you've got the Facebook pixel on there. You'd then start seeing ads on other platforms like Facebook or LinkedIn.
Right. So long-term keywords on Google search, great landing page, straight to the offer with a remarketing campaign on Facebook. Would that be the best recommend?
Yeah, and I've had success before. So we haven't gone down the paid route at the moment, but I've had great success with niche landing pages with a couple of questions. So you're asking pain point quiz style questions. People answer those questions, they get a short video, and then they get an offer.
Nice.
So those sort of slightly longer flows as well have worked in the past.
Amazing. Okay. Let me go back to LinkedIn because I don't know who it was, but you guys mentioned that LinkedIn campaigns where you guys share some sort of guide or free content as long as people comment and like the post is a very successful strategy for you. And I see it more and more happening on LinkedIn, but I find it hard to crack the code. What would be the three top suggestions that you have to make sure that something like that can go viral?
I think it's the main thing that will make it go viral is, strangely enough, commenting and taking part in doing DMs with people that are in your relevant category. That sounds like a cop-out, but the algorithm takes into consideration who you send direct messages to, who actually replies, and then who views your profile. There's a reason, even though people hate it, there's a reason that engagement pods work, because people tend to share similar interests. And if they're all liking and sharing the same thing, other people that have relevant interests in that community will also see your posts. But those are sort of the longer term fixes and ways in which you can go viral. One other thing is we look at the most highly engaged influencers and the ones with the most following, and most of them are publishing at least once per day. Only 3% of the entire user base of LinkedIn publishes more than once per month. So to put that in perspective, 97% of people are probably not even commenting or liking, but they're still viewing your stuff. So to kind of wrap that up, I think the reason that some of these playbooks and lead magnets work so well is because they force an action from people that would otherwise normally be silent in order to get access to something. What you want to do is give just enough away that is of value in the post, and then say, but if you want to know more, if you want to get additional resources, comment for the link. And so I would say the two biggest things you can do are make sure you're posting every day.
Right.
It doesn't always have to be a lead magnet. You can reuse lead magnets, but I would say maybe 2 or 3 times a week max for those. And then just make sure you're posting something relevant to your brand or your business the other days. And then make sure that within the lead magnet post, you telegraph early on up in the post that you're giving away a free resource or something. Make sure that the visual is either a carousel PDF or a video walkthrough of what you're doing. and then try to share it with 5 to 10 people through DMs
Right.
that rather than trying to sell them on something. Just say, look, I wrote this thing that I thought you would find relevant.
Amazing advice. So you warm up people before you do the heavy job, right?
Yeah.
And then you continue warming people up by DMs. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were you gonna add anything else? Sorry, I was really
No,
amazed.
I was just going to say, Eduardo, it's like what you do with podcasts, which is like you're going and talking to people that probably have a presence on LinkedIn. I think one of the best strategies for podcasters is to tag the people that are in the podcast, and then get their followers to engage. Greg and I both worked for Stephen Bartlett, and Diary of a CEO is this monolith that's grown so quickly. He would always look for audiences, big followings for the people he interviewed, where there wasn't a lot of crossover, so that there could be some crossover, but he would then be able to share audience with both groups. So finding people that are interesting to pull into the conversation but aren't exactly identical to your following, I think that's key.
Love it. Sorry, Greg, were you gonna say anything else? Sorry, I thought you were trying to speak.
No, I was going to talk about the lead magnet posts. Great to post ourselves, great to kind of get awareness for our project. One thing that you can also do with the Growlink tool is to look for those sort of posts, discover those posts, so that the tool allows you to search for them. And once you've found them, as long as they're in your niche, you're able to then pull in that URL, pull out the leads from it, and then start commenting on those people. And they're sort of highly engaged people that are then going to look at what you've got, potentially send you a DM. And we've actually closed quite a few deals in that way by engaging with those people that have commented on lead magnet posts recently in the last couple of days.
Does your tool measure somehow the effectiveness of the comment? Because I guess that measuring commenting, it's pretty much intangible. It's hard to do. Does the tool offer some sort of solution about the quality of the lead who is replying to the post or anything along those lines?
So in terms of reporting at the moment, it will show you sort of the engagement that you're getting. So how many comments you put out and the engagement that you're getting on those comments. Beyond that, that's something that's in the pipeline, but hasn't
Nice.
been built. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything Val you want to add to that.
Sorry, I would say if you go into the app, there are some high level analytics on impressions and what LinkedIn says they can attribute in terms of new followers to specific comments and replies, but it remains to be seen how that's actually measured. What we do know is that not just anecdotally, but through their actions, they are placing a much bigger emphasis on the comment section, showing individuals how many impressions their comments are getting. And they just released a post about new strategies that they are employing as a business to reduce kind of gamified engagement and AI generated engagement. So it will be harder. People will be penalized for blatantly AI generated comments. And so, yeah, I think it's a really interesting time to do it if you're going to do it genuinely.
Amazing. Guys, I think we touched so many topics. I think I took way more time than expected, and I guess you're really, really busy. So first of all, I wanted to thank you a lot for coming to the video podcast. I hope you had fun. I hope people can actually appreciate the amazing work you've done with the tool. And I would like to ask you one last question. What would be the three main tips you would give to someone who is entering entrepreneurship or trying to get into entrepreneurship? And also, do you have any offers, anything, a no-brainer offer, or anything that might encourage people to get started with your tool, something that they can, appreciate the actual outcome or results that the tool can generate for them, just so that they can, make sure to make the most out of it as soon as possible.
Yes.
Greg, I don't know. Yeah, if you want to go first.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, first thing obviously is recognizing the pain point. So understanding, first of all, having experience in the area that you're building tools in, but secondly, making sure there is that pain point there to solve, and then launching fast. So I think too many companies will spend months and months and months building something without getting it out to market. So our thesis is to launch fast, find out what people want, and if it doesn't quite hit the mark, continue iterating. And I think too many people fail by just taking years to launch something. They launched, it happens to be wrong, and then they run out of runway. So I think it's having that, launching fast, iterating fast, getting feedback, and iterating based on that feedback. In terms of kind of the offer, I mean, we do for Growlink, we have a 7-day free trial, so everybody should just jump in. You can go in, cancel any time during that period, but give it a full test and try it out and see what you think.
Amazing. What can they reach out to you guys to get in touch, and any social media specifically that you are more present in?
LinkedIn and X, we both are very active on both. You can find us probably easiest just by our names on LinkedIn. My handle on X is McVal, and I forget what yours is, Greg. I should know.
Yeah, GM Ordinal on there. But in terms of kind of the website, if you go to growlink.io and sign up there for the free trial as well. So either.
Amazing. I will leave everything, all the links and all the connection points with you guys on LinkedIn and X on the post, so people can reach out easily to you. Okay, perfect. So thanks so much again. It's been a real pleasure. First time we have two people here, and I think it's been very intense. I would say we can even go on for another hour, but we can keep it here today. And perhaps I would love to extend another invite. And if you accept it, it will be a pleasure for just to see how the app is doing in the near future, which I don't doubt will be amazing.
I think Elon Musk has been on Lex Friedman's podcast about 5 times now, so we can definitely do a second time.
Right. Okay. Perfect. I appreciate that. Love it. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Eduardo. Bye.
Bye.